The April sun at TUAN industrial park in Binh Duong scorched everything, with red dust, sweat, and the noise of machinery weaving into a chaotic symphony. In the middle of the concrete yard, which was steaming under the heat, Mr. KY, director of TUAN construction company, stood like a stone statue, holding a folded blueprint. His face was flushed red, eyes bulging. "Get over here, now," he roared, his voice echoing like thunder. Nong, a young technician fresh out of university, timidly squeezed through the group of workers, his limbs trembling. His faded protective gear was smeared with cement from head to toe. Mr. KY waved the blueprint, pointing it straight at Nong's face. "Idiot, you can't even read a simple blueprint? I'm asking you, what's the elevation of column C3? How much is it off from the axis?" Nong stammered, "DDD sir, I read the old blueprint by mistake." Smack. Mr. KY threw the blueprint to the ground, his voice like a whip. "Reading the wrong blueprint for an entire factory line? You're about to build it with a 20-centimeter misalignment. Do you even understand the consequences? When they install the machines, they'll run off center due to the misalignment. Then who's responsible, huh?" The entire construction site seemed to hold its breath. The masons, steel workers, technicians, and assistants all shrank back against the walls, not daring to make a sound. Everyone knew Mr. KY had a fiery temper. He cursed directly, but he cursed correctly. Nong stood frozen, sweating profusely like he had just stepped out of a rainstorm. Mr. KY gritted his teeth. "3 hours. I'll give you 3 hours. Clean it up and recheck everything. If you can't fix it, get out." Then he turned and walked away, leaving behind an atmosphere so tense it felt like a stretched wire about to snap. Nong bent down, picked up the blueprint, his eyes stinging. Sitting down heavily on the hot concrete, he wiped his sweat and carefully examined every line of the drawing. Just then, Foreman Tam and a few seasoned workers came over. "Let me show you, don't worry," Tam said, tapping a steel ruler lightly on the drawing. "This is the new one. Look here, align it to marker A7, not the old marker anymore." Duke, the best mason on the team, also pointed things out. The group of experienced workers huddled together, calculating and measuring. Sweat poured down their faces, but no one complained. Immediately, Nong ordered the workers to demolish the misaligned parts, reposition the rebar, and use a laser to recalibrate the elevation. One after another, the sounds of drilling, cutting, and hammering roared across the site, operating at full capacity. In less than 3 hours, the mistaken area had been neatly corrected, perfectly straight, as if no error had ever occurred. When Mr. KY returned, he said nothing. He just pulled out his laser level and measured each column, each marker, each elevation carefully. After a while, he nodded, tossed the laser onto the table, and glared at Nong. "Did you learn your lesson yet?" Nong stood straight, his voice stronger than it had been that morning. "Yes, sir. I promise from now on I will triple-check the blueprints before handing them over for construction. I won't let it happen again, Mr. KY smirked. "Good, knowing your mistakes and correcting them, that's the only way to survive in construction. No one's born smart right after graduation. But if you dare touch the blueprint, you have to dare take responsibility, understand?" Yes, sir. Nong replied firmly. Mr. KY turned to Tam and jerked his chin. Tam, take the kid with you. Today, let him follow the steel crew, the masonry crew, and the finishing team. Teach him properly. I'm giving him a chance. The whole crew clapped. People often said, if a kid could survive a scolding from Mr. KY, he would mature more in a day than others would in years. That afternoon, when the site lights came on, Nong was still hunched over a new set of blueprints, quietly noting every small detail. On the young man's sunburned face glowed a hardened, determined smile. Amid the roaring engines that filled TUAN Industrial Park, a greenhorn technician had begun turning into a real man. You might think the story ended there, but no. During break time, Lan, an old mason, walked past where Nong was checking the blueprints. He shot Nong a sideways glance and sneered. A technician stupid as a cow, couldn't even get the elevation right. We busted our butts fixing it, almost broke our arms. Some young workers nearby giggled. Nong lowered his head, still clutching his measuring tape tightly, his face burning with shame. But he gritted his teeth and said nothing. Lan swaggered off, still mumbling. Just a brat, wrecking the whole site like it's a game. In the afternoon, the whole construction site began pouring concrete for the foundation. Lan led the bricklaying team to pour the warehouse area. It seemed that everything had been aligned properly, but when they reached the third span, Nong rushed out, waving frantically, "Hold on, hold on. The beam is off axis, you have to stop pouring immediately." Lan, annoyed, barked, "You again? What do you know to butt in?" Nong didn't argue. He simply turned on the laser level. The red line swept straight across the beam. The whole team gasped. It was off nearly 15 centimeters from axis A7. Sweat beaded heavily on Lan's forehead. If they had continued pouring, the warehouse would have had a misaligned structure with disastrous consequences. Master Foreman Tam stepped up, face stern. "Lan, I thought you were experienced. Is this how you work?" Luckily, Nong was careful, or when the inspector comes for acceptance, you'd be eating prison food. Lan stammered, unable to argue. The whole team silently corrected the beam according to Nong's instructions. No one dared say another word. That evening, when the site was deserted, Lan sat alone on the unfinished steps, staring at the flickering lights from the workers' barracks. A cold cup of coffee sat in his hand. His heart was heavy. He recalled when he was new to the job, getting yelled at, demolishing and rebuilding due to measurement errors. Back then, there were also engineers who patiently guided him, step by step. Yet now, he had looked down on a newcomer. The shame pricked his heart like sharp thorns. The next morning, as Nong was busy shuffling through new drawings, Lan walked over. His face was contemplative, no longer arrogant as usual. Lan scratched his head and mumbled, "Hey, yesterday I was harsh. Sorry, man, thanks for saving us from a huge mistake." Nong looked up, a bit surprised, then smiled and nodded, "No problem, brother. I still have a lot to learn from you guys." Lan slapped Nong hard on the shoulder, this time in camaraderie. "Yeah, in this trade, the most important thing is knowing how to fix your mistakes. I respect you, kid." From that day on, Lan no longer mocked or acted superior to Nong. Instead, the two stuck close, coaching each other carefully. Sometimes Nong reminded Lan to adjust the concrete pump arm. Sometimes Lan taught Nong how to quickly read the rebar schedule without checking line by line. Amidst the scorching heat, the scent of sweat and cement, mixed with laughter and chatter, the atmosphere at TUAN Industrial Park construction site suddenly became warmer, more genuine. Because in construction, no one is born perfect. Only those who know how to admit, fix mistakes, and help each other stand tall deserve to remain in this unforgiving trade. That afternoon, before the sun could set, the construction site at TUAN Industrial Park was once again in turmoil. A group of workers gathered around a freshly cut steel beam, everyone wearing heavy expressions as if carrying stones on their backs. Director Key strode over, his face red with rage. He pointed straight at the beam and growled, word by word. "Idiots. The 9-meter bridge beam, you cut it down to 8.9 meters. What do you use your brain for, decoration?" Lan, the production team leader, stood frozen, eyes lowered, hands clasped in front of his stomach, feeling like a fire was burning inside. Key didn't let up, his voice booming across the entire construction site. According to the standard, a main load-bearing beam with incorrect dimensions cannot be welded or patched. It must be remade. One beam like this costs over 200 million. Who's going to pay for it? You? A long sigh, then murmurs spread throughout the site. Everyone understood the grave consequences of this mistake. Key pointed straight at Lan's face, voice tight with fury. "You're the production team leader, earning the highest salary in the crew, and yet you couldn't even mark and cut the beam properly? Starting tomorrow, you're suspended. You'll sign a commitment to cover 200 million. Remember that." The words hit like a knife strike. Lan stood there, frozen, his face pale, heart nearly stopping. 200 million, that number weighed down on him like a boulder. All the years he had spent bent over as a laborer, scraping together every dime, now it all seemed to crumble. The workers stood silent. Nong, the young technician, stole a glance at Lan, his heart sinking. Though Lan had once looked down on him, even scolded him to his face, in that moment, seeing Lan so devastated, Nong couldn't help but feel pity. That afternoon, Lan returned to the workers' tent, sitting slumped on the edge of his bed. The last rays of sunlight pierced through the thin tarp, casting a tired, aged shadow over his face. A dented beer can was placed on the table by a young worker, who said timidly, "Here, drink it, maybe you'll feel a bit better." Lan forced a smile and accepted the can but didn't even bother to open it. In his mind, memories came flooding back, his first days on the job, the excitement of counting every cubic meter of concrete, measuring every millimeter of steel, then the times he became complacent, arrogant, believing he was already good enough, that young newcomers like Nong were nothing. And now, just because of one careless marking, one mismeasurement of 10 centimeters, everything collapsed. Tears, something Lan thought had dried up long ago, silently streamed down his face. But construction is an unforgiving trade. Make a mistake, and you pay. There's no room for regret. No one can save you but yourself. Lan gripped the can tightly, a glint of determination flashing in his eyes. I won't fall. I'll get back up, even if I have to start from zero. That night, in the flimsy workers' tent at TUAN Industrial Park, Lan sat slumped next to the scrap steel beam. The wind howled through the gaps in the tarp, mingling with the distant hoots of an owl, making the night even more desolate. The beer in his hand had long since gone flat, but he still hadn't taken a sip. In his mind, the morning's events replayed over and over like a horror film. When he was marking the cut for the beam, Nong, the young technician, had hesitantly approached. Brother Lan, you have to measure from the inclined side of the beam shoulder to get a full 9 meters. Measuring straight down will be shorter, it'll be wrong. At that time, Lan, fired up, cigarette clamped in his mouth, tapping the steel ruler loudly on the beam, snapped back. What the hell do you know? I've been doing this for 15 years. Shut your mouth. Now, thinking back, those harsh words felt like a slap across his own face. It was that stubbornness, that arrogance toward the new guy, that killed the 9-meter beam, turned it into 8.9 meters. It was that pride that punched Lan in the face with a $200 million price tag, paid with blood, sweat, and dignity. The night wind howled. Lan wiped his face, but his calloused hand could only smear the tears mixed with dust. Never had he felt so ashamed. Back then, they used to joke. Working construction, it's a bloody trade. One mistake, and you could lose everything. He hadn't believed it. He thought he was good enough, experienced enough to look down on the new kids. Now he tasted the bitter truth. If you don't listen to the young ones, the old ones die. Outside, the workers gathered, smoking and chatting in hushed tones. Someone clicked his tongue. Poor Lan. But it's also his fault, people warned him, and he still cursed them out. Another chimed in. Old or new, you have to listen to each other. Construction isn't a joke. Each comment stabbed into Lan's heart like a needle. He stood up abruptly, stepped out of the tent, and looked up at the sky. The night sky over TUAN was black as ink, with only a few faint stars twinkling. Sorry, Nong. He whispered, voice trembling. Never had he felt so full of regret. If only he had paused, listened to a word of advice, lowered his ego just a little, just a little. Maybe the 9-meter beam would still be intact. Maybe the site would still be buzzing with energy. Maybe he wouldn't be sitting here, humiliated like a defeated man. The next morning, as the sun shone onto the cold steel beams, the TUAN industrial park construction site was once again alive with the sounds of welding, hammering, and chiseling. But among the workers, everyone noticed something strange. Lan, the once arrogant production team leader, now carried himself very differently. Today, Lan buried himself in work like an ordinary laborer, his safety helmet askew, covering half of his sun-darkened face. His eyes were dull, occasionally glancing nervously toward the corner of the tent where Nong was busy measuring. Not until noon, when everyone scattered to rest, did Lan slowly walk over under many surprised gazes. He stood upright, swallowed hard, his voice hoarse. Nong, come here. I want to talk. Nong, startled, dropped his measuring tape, and approached, still looking doubtful. Lan looked straight into his eyes, then suddenly bowed his head deeply. I'm sorry, that day, you warned me, but I didn't listen. I was foolish, stubborn, and it hurt the project, hurt the company, lost 200 million, lost my honor. But losing trust, that's the most painful thing. The air seemed to solidify. The workers around held their breath. No one could believe that a stubborn man like Lan would bow and admit his mistake. Nong awkwardly scratched his head. I was just doing my duty. I don't blame you, brother. Lan sighed heavily, slapped the young technician's shoulder. From now on, if you have any ideas, speak 'em straight to my face. I swear I'll listen. This project must be built to standards, no more letting foolish pride ruin everything. The whole construction site buzzed with murmured chatter. From that day on, Lan completely changed. No more yelling, no more arrogance of a so-called seasoned worker thinking he ruled over everyone. He worked alongside his fellow workers, personally guiding each technical detail, carefully checking every weld, every steel tie. Nong also changed. From a timid, inexperienced technician, he grew more confident, more assertive in his suggestions. One person helping another, old workers mentoring new ones. Lan's crew, once divided and fragmented, became tightly bonded like reinforced steel. The following beams were all perfectly straight, precise down to the millimeter. Director Key nodded in satisfaction. Now this finally looks like a professional construction team. At the topping out ceremony, Key shook Lan's hand firmly. You didn't just pay back the 200 million. More importantly, you paid back something money can't buy: professional integrity. Lan smiled a gentle smile amid the cheers. He glanced at Nong, his eyes shining with silent gratitude. From that fall, Lan had grown. Nong had grown too. And the construction itself rose proudly under the TUAN sky, like a reminder. In construction, you don't just build structures, you build people too.